Good morning, everybody. Uh, Dr. Edmund Mansour, Minister of Telecommunications, Science and Technology, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister Winston Williams, Minister of Education, Sports, Youth and Gender Affairs. Dr. Mark Bullen, Call Education Specialist. Neil Butcher, our consultant and expert for this workshop. Madam Jacinta Pringle, Director of Education. Prachita Spencer, Call Focal Point. Dr. Reginald Murphy, Secretary General in UNESCO National Commission. Education officers, principals, other guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of UNESCO, I welcome all of you to this particular consultation. I take this opportunity to thank Honorable Minister Dr. Mansour, who has initiated this discussion of coming to Antigua and Barbuda for making this workshop possible. So when you plan for entire Caribbean, this OER policies and as well as ICT safety framework, one of the first two countries came to our mind is Grenada and Antigua and Barbuda. So thank you, Minister, for your initiating this important initiative. First of all, I must introduce myself. I've just joined 1 year back in Kingston. I'm responsible for entire Caribbean, around 17 countries, and for Communication Information Program. And I'm just arrived 1 year back. I was working in UNESCO headquarters, and I was given a special task to develop enabling policies, enabling environment in the Caribbean, especially for open solutions and ICTs in education, culture, and science. This is the task given to me when I came here, and you will find me more often in the region in next few months to come. First of all, I want to present something to you. What is open education resources? I am talking about the whole of Caribbean, but also particular emphasis to Antigua. This is a little bit of longer presentation. Please bear with me. So first of all, what is education resources? UNESCO defines education resources, especially e-learning resources and tools released under open intellectual property license or in the public domain, allowing free use, reuse, and resharing. This is the first. Actually, all these open education resources, what have been developed by the educational fraternity, which could be allowed to be accessed, to be used, reused, share, reshared with your colleagues under one common creative license. This is the definition of OER. Actually, it was first defined in UNESCO 2002 in a forum called Impact of Open Courseware for Higher Education. And it defines as teaching, learning, research materials in any medium, digital or otherwise, that resides in public domain or have been released under an open license that permits no cost access, adaptation, redistributions by others with no or limited restrictions. This kind of material should not have no or limited restrictions of use. This particular OER has been built upon the intellectual property rights, what WIPO has defined. So that doesn't contradict violates any intellectual property rights of any of these, any of you. OER can include the learning content. It can be full courses or can be any single learning objects. It can include software tools to support development, to reuse and delivery of the content, and also the implementation of resources, including intellectual property license to publish materials. All these are including in the whole domain of OER. When many people ask these questions. When I was in OER team in HQ, many people ask how open is this open education resources. Actually, when it is released under open license, it can be used, revised, remixed, redistributed, and no permission is required as long as the open license in conditions are respected. There are a few open license. One is Creative Commons by share alike, Creative Commons by non-commercial, Creative Commons by non-derivative, Creative Commons by non-commercial, non-derivative. These are some of the formats of open licenses. I think Neil will explain you in much greater details when it comes in the next few hours. Why UNESCO gives importance to open education resources? First of all, it expands the scope of lifelong learning, and also it also helps to contribute social inclusion and gender equity because it's accessible to all, and education for special needs. This is an important area of work in UNESCO, that we give emphasis to people for special needs. Then OER could be helpful to bring them to this domain. And also it reduces the cost of education and improves the quality of teaching and learning. These are the benefits of OER. There are many of you are all aware that OER exists in the common domain. For example, Wikipedia, WikiEducator, Wiki University, all wiki spaces are examples of OER. And there is also a platform called Connections. There is also Open Learning Initiative by Carnegie Mellon University. There is also a FlexiLearn. There is a platform for especially developing countries. And the last one is Open Learning from Open University. These are some examples of open education resources. How this has come up actually, why UNESCO is taken so seriously? As Honorable Minister Williams has mentioned, that it all started with MIT courseware in 2001. And when MIT went for the open education sources with access to everybody, then UNESCO convened, it's in 2001. In 2002, UNESCO convened immediately after 1 year some kind of experts meeting or a group of experts to deliberate how could you take this OER forward, what MIT has done. So it's called UNESCO Forum Impact Upon Courseware Higher Education. It was done 2002. In the same year, we have these OLI CMU courses. But after that, 2002, there was not many activities from UNESCO. So what we have done is that until 2012, there is a major attempt in collaboration with COL. We have convened a OER Congress in Paris last year, in June 2012. And that was a major step forward towards OER. And there are some declarations which I will explain you. I'll give you in later part of my presentation, that it has been agreed by 400 delegates that the OER has to be taken forward from the days of 2001, 2002 to the next one. Coming back to OER policy, because I know there is a slight shift in the emphasis right now. We will go for a overall ICT in education policy. Under that, OER will fit into. But general experience in many countries, when you go for the OER policies, the first thing we should understand that what kind of OER policy you want actually, and in which form. And do you need to constitutionalize the country situation? Definitely yes. Do you need to formulate it in the broader frameworks of ICT education policy, or you want a standalone policy? These are some of the questions we need to discuss. We are discussing in many other countries. And what are the legal, administrative, and financial implications? These are some of the questions you need to deliberate next few days. And most importantly, you need to have a firm commitment from your side, from all stakeholders, because for UNESCO, many of these policies are been formulated, but it is not executed in reality. So I believe that many countries need a firm commitment from there to implement it. But you will ask, are we mandated? The countries are mandated. Yes, they definitely are mandated. If you talk about SSIS declaration, SSIS forum, which is all the member countries and all the countries have been represented in Geneva, Tunis, they have mentioned about OER. And if you talk about regional one, ELAC 2015, goals for education in Lima Declaration, it's quite clear OER has been mentioned there in a different format. And of course, in 2011, June, there is a Son Judge Declaration, so all of you are part of that declaration. So in a sense, you're all mandated to do that. So you should carry forward this exercise further. And most importantly, last year in November, we met in Ochorius. Some of you are there, that we developed a kind of Caribbean approach as well as in-country approach to developing OER policies. And so what exactly, and wherever UNESCO's approach is like this, wherever we go, we have we want to develop a few things, that since OER operates only in ICT-enabled environment, we need to have a national policy, ICT in Education National Policy, ICT Education National Plan, a set of regulatory provisions and set of regulatory institutions, and it could follow the open education policy, open OER policy. Last year, last year we have published a regional survey. UNESCO has published, UNESCO Institute of Statistics published a regional survey on Caribbean, 24 countries, about ICT readiness for the next few years, like whether we are ready, what kind of situation we have in Caribbean to carry forward some of the ICT in education policies, including OER, open access, and all other issues. What we find is that, I'm just quoting, I may be wrong because the data is up to end of 2011, so there is still 1 year gap, so the data might have changed. We found that some of the national policies in ICT education available in Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, St. Vincent, and St. Lucia, which is somehow fully integrated. Partially exists in Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago. It doesn't exist in Antigua, Barbuda, Dominica, and St. Kitts. Again, this is a survey results. And national policies, plans exist in many countries except Dominica and St. Kitts. And some regulatory institutions, regulatory provisions, okay? When coming back to Antigua and Barbuda, I can tell you we have some statistics which might differ right now. National policies for ICT education, it shows that it doesn't exist. But national plans exist according to the survey. Regulatory provisions exist, set of regulatory institutions exist in primary, lower secondary, upper secondary, but OER policy doesn't exist. This is the survey information which I'm just quoting you. It might have changed over 1 year. Some of the good things, highlights, which I want to highlight in Antigua Barbuda is that all the primary and secondary schools are connected with telephone and electricity. All of them, 100%. Proportion of primary, secondary institution with computer lab, 84 primary, 100% secondary. This is some of the good examples of in the Caribbean region that Antigua Barbuda has done a good job in terms of ICT readiness I'm talking about. 84% internet connectivity in primary and 100% in secondary. Education institution with local network, 84% primary, 100% secondary. With ICT support, 71% secondary. But education with, of course, website, education institution with website is 5% secondary and 64% secondary institution, secondary education institutions. Again, the survey says there is access to internet is 100% to most of the schools. Education institution with internet assisted instructions is not available, but computer assisted instructions. One of the gap we found in Antigua is that although ICT infrastructure is there, but ICT assisted instructions are not available. For example, what the data says, the computer assisted instruction is only 5% in primary and 3% secondary. There is a gap between infrastructure and applying that infrastructure or integrating infrastructure ICTs into education. There is a small gap or a big gap. And as UNESCO, we believe also traditional ICTs like radio and television. What I got from the data is 14% secondary institution use radio assisted instructions, and primary 2% and secondary 5% for television. So this is some of the data, and there is no OER policy exists according to data. That's why you are here anyway. So these are some of the things. But what I'm trying to say that we over the next 2 days, what UNESCO and Commonwealth Learning will try to try to prick your brain, you can say, and get all the elements necessary to take this, to formulate this policy. And we have Neil Butcher, who is specialist in formulating policies, is specialized in education and also OER within that context. And we definitely, it will be a fruitful discussion, but it will have ownership from you. That's the best part of it. And all your contributions will be recognized. I could just, before I leave, I just give you three or four important elements of OER declaration, OER Paris Declaration. Again, I am telling you that we are together, like UNESCO and Commonwealth of Learning started the whole initiative in 2011 together, and everywhere we are going together. This is one of the most successful collaboration UNESCO and Commonwealth of Learning is doing. And I'm telling you, even OER World Congress was organized by both of us, both of the organizations, and it is quite successful. So instead of going in a different way, we are synergizing our energy, our support funds to one direction to have some of the policies and support system in place in Caribbean and rest of the countries, Commonwealth countries. So amongst the recommendation to the government in OER Congress, like promote awareness, use of OER, bridge digital divide, developing infrastructure, that is one of the recommendations made to the government, broadband, mobile electricity, develop national policy on OER, promote open licensing framework, support capacity building initiatives on OER, encourage and support research on OER. These are the recommendations to the government from World Education OER Congress. Encourage open license materials produced using public funds. Out of these 5 or 6 recommendations, we are only taking 2 because we can't take whole of these things. 2 are develop national policies on OER. This is one of the, again along with call. And the second is support capacity building initiative in OER. These are the 2 initiatives we are taking forward from UNESCO. And some of the things, of course, later on. And about the institution, recommended to the institutions, we are coming out with institutional policy for OER. For example, the first university which will be having an institutional policy is University of West Indies from the Caribbean. We are negotiating with the whole teaching fraternity there. We are trying to bring them in one board and develop institutional policy so that they can share the education materials with others under common creative license. So, besides this, still there are some problems. Some challenges we are facing. One of the few challenges which I have experienced in last few years, or last 1 or 2 years, in some countries, there is a problem about understanding of the copyright. This issue will be tackled by Neil in the next few things, understanding copyrights, whether the person who has created these educational materials, what kind of rights he has. Actually, you are not losing any copyright for when you are entering into OER. This is our understanding. And second important problem is that there is less awareness about open licensing system. That will be tackled in this workshop by Neil in the next few sessions. And third important thing, there is not many OER policy in the national level or institutional level. This is the third problem we are facing. And also there is not much capacity of development of OER materials which could be shared in public domain. And of course, there is always a digital divide. The first world, developed countries have more OER. They're less likely to share the underdeveloped or developing countries. So there's still a digital divide on this issue. With these presentations, I want to end, and I thank you once again for your kind patience listening to all those issues which UNESCO gives priority. Again, I thank all of you for participating, and we value your participation and cooperation and your contributions. Actually, the whole success of this whole policy will depend on your contributions. Thank you, all of you, and have a nice meeting.